Is he a very great wizard, or is he more like you? Good morning, fans! And by that, we don't mean it's a morning to be good on, or that we feel good this morning, though we definitely do. For it's time to go on an adventure. What else do you do when the disturber of peace, Gandalf the Grey, knocks at your door? Bear in mind that if you close the door on his face, you might just find yourself short an entire pantry and the host of an unexpected party. You must have guessed what this video is going to be about by now, but if not, well, pick up your quill and slap on your mittens, for your inner Ori is going to be delighted. Today, like Dory and Bilbo, we get to learn about the 5 great wizards of Maiar who were sent by the Valar to Middle-earth to guide the heroes of that land. And before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
And kill the one who carries it.
Who are the Maiar, and what is their mission? The Maiar are the Arda equivalent of the archangels in Christian mythos. Apprentices of the Valar, or the gods of Middle-earth, the 5 Maiar were sent to Middle-earth to guide the heroes and protect the realm in various ways. If you wish to help defeat evil, these were your guys. From Balrog slaying to taking down Dark Lords, they did it all, and each Maiar had a different way of fulfilling their duties, which is reflective of their personality, their teachings, and their beliefs. Collectively, they're called the Istari, which translates to those who know. Combined with the term wizard and Tolkien's appreciation of language, we can know that these are the wise of Arda. But why do these spirit beings look like men? Well, that's because after the War of Wrath, which was a war in the First Age between the evil Morgoth and the Valar decided sending powerful beings to fight Sauron, the new Dark Lord and servant of Morgoth, would lead to immense destruction. Instead, they would have to rely on heroes and subtle guidance for those heroes to defeat Sauron with the least amount of damage caused to the fabric of the world. This is why Gandalf couldn't challenge Sauron directly in Lord of the Rings, though we do know that many of us are still wondering why the Eagles couldn't just fly them to Mordor directly, but that's a topic for another video. Regardless, the Maiar had to dim themselves down to fit the mentor look. Old men with long beards. Over time, it seems only Gandalf remembers this part of their role, what with Radagast becoming devoted to Mirkwood, the Blue Wizards getting lost, and Saruman doing Sauron's bidding. Yet, why did all the things play out as they did? For that, we must look at the wizards themselves and hear their stories. Starting with the most infamous of them all, the one who put kings on thrones and would love to just sit and smoke a pipe with Belladonna Baggins in peace. Yes, we're talking about the Wandering Wizard, the one whom the Dwero call Tharkun, the Elves call Mithrandir, and the people of the South call Incanis, but whom we simply know as Gandalf, because he gives me courage. Gandalf was called Olroin in the Undying Lands of the Valar. A disciple of Manwë, Varda, Irmo, and Nienna, he was the wisest of the Maiar and was created by Eru before creation. While Gandalf favored the teachings of Nienna and also walked among the elves as an elf or sent them dreams, most of us know him from The Lord of the Rings or its prequel, The Hobbit. In The Hobbit, Gandalf approaches Thorin to reclaim the lonely mountain kingdom of Erebor to remove the threat of Smaug, the dragon from Middle-earth. For the same quest, he also approaches the son of his late friend Belladonna Took, one Bilbo Baggins, to be the burglar who will steal the Arkenstone or the crown jewel of Erebor from Smaug. Yes, this is the same quest on which Bilbo found the One Ring and set in motion the events that would lead to his nephew Frodo destroying Sauron's chances of returning to Middle-earth. When Gandalf arrived on Middle-earth at the beginning of the Third Age, he was robed in grey, and thus got the moniker the Grey Wizard or Gandalf the Grey. Since he never took permanent residence, he also got the moniker the Wandering Wizard, and eventually, after he stole away one too many hobbits on an adventure, the people of his beloved Shire christened him the Disturber of the Peace. Fun fact, despite all of his powers, the only thing Bilbo recalled about Gandalf on their meeting in The Hobbit was that Gandalf made excellent fireworks. Gandalf was also the one to realize the ring Bilbo bequeathed to his nephew was the One Ring, a scene that was also present in the Lord of the Rings movies. This led to the formation of the Fellowship of the Ring, of which Gandalf was a part and a leader until he died fighting a Balrog in the mines of Khazad-dûm or Moria. He was a source of strength and wisdom for young Frodo, who was charged with bearing the ring of Sauron to Mordor and destroying it. Gandalf often refused the One Ring, saying that if it corrupted him, it would have too much power at its beck and call. Do we need more evidence that Gandalf was not only wise but also prudent and cautious, making him the perfect adversary for Sauron? While he was immortal, death in Middle-earth made him even more powerful, and he returned as Gandalf the White, or the White Rider, now the leader of the Order of Wizards, and played a pivotal part following the defeat of Saruman and securing the victory in the Battle of Helm's Deep, and of course, the final battle in the War of the Ring. Always thinking a step ahead and making plans no one else is privy to, Gandalf might be the best mentor character in the narrative, but he is also cunning, shrewd, and secretive. And he takes courage from the smallest and most unassuming things, like hobbits. There was another wizard who was foolish enough to challenge this courage. That was Saruman the White, a cloak of white lies. If you saw an old man dressed in robes of stark white carrying a staff with his open white hair trailing behind him near a tower near the Gap of Rohan, you were probably seeing the leader of the Maiar, Saruman the White. Called wisest by Gandalf, which turned out to be folly, this Istari was a disciple of Aule or Mahal. He was supposed to be the strongest and most steadfast of all the wizards. Despite this, not only was he rude and condescending to Gandalf, as evident by their interaction at Rivendell in the Hobbit movies, but he also fell prey to the allure of power. Wanting the One Ring for himself, he decided to join forces with Sauron and made the monstrous Uruk-hai. What a turncoat. No wonder his white robes ended up going to Gandalf, the one who was actually doing the job assigned to the Maiar. Fun fact, Saruman and the Children of Aphrodite in the Percy Jackson series share a common feature, charm speak. When Saruman infuses his power into his voice, he can sway people. He also held Gandalf captive for a while, which shows how he wasn't above misusing trust and also the extent of his powers. But wait, didn't we say Saruman challenges hobbits? How did he do that? Well, in two ways. First, he sent his Uruk-hai to capture Frodo. While Baggins and Gamgee managed to leave the scene and continue on the hellish quest to Mordor, Pippin and Merry were both taken. They eventually escaped and met Treebeard, who told them that the forest was rising against Saruman Macbeth style because he was chopping too much wood to fire his furnaces. Very subtle little comment on war economies and industrialization here, but the theme continues when after Saruman's defeat and death at the end of the War of the Ring, the four Hobbit heroes return home to the Shire, only to find Saruman's men have made it hell for the folk living there. Not only is there rampant unchecked industry polluting the natural beauty of the Shire, the people are also being mistreated. This harkens back to the rising wave of environmentalism and love for nature in England around the time Tolkien was writing, which seems to have some merits because as important as industrialization and urbanization have been, leaving them unchecked has threatened biodiversity and caused global warming and climate change. So, Lord of the Rings is woke now? What do you think? Let us know in the comments while we introduce you to the most hippie of the wizards. Radagast the Brown, for the love of nature. Honestly, they should have known. He has the brown in his name, and yes, we're talking about the same Radagast whom fans called loony when they saw him in the Hobbit movies. He protects land far to the east, aka Mirkwood, and was the one to inform Gandalf in the Hobbit movies about the Nazgul blade which showed that Sauron's spirit was hiding in Dol Guldur. Radagast's bond with animals is so strong that squirrels make homes in his hat and he can nurse creatures back to life. As a Maiar of Yavanna, his love for animals and plants makes a lot of sense, since the creator of the Hobbits in Fanon is the Middle-earth equivalent of an earth goddess such as Demeter. Even Radagast's true name, Iwendil, means friend of the birds. Yet, unlike Gandalf and Sauron, who were chosen by Manwë and Aule respectively to go protect Middle-earth, Yavanna had to request that Saruman, or as he was called back then, Curomo, take Radagast with them. Radagast didn't play an important role in the War of the Rings in the books, according to some, but the Hobbit movies gives him some epic scenes. Not only is there the chase where he discovers the Nazgul blade and flees Dol Guldur, but he also helps Gandalf investigate in the third movie, the Battle of the Five Armies. In the first Hobbit movie, An Unexpected Journey, he uses his rabbit-drawn sled to try and distract the orcs into coming after him, so that the company of Thorin Oakenshield can escape. And yes, he is the one Bilbo and Dory are asking about when they say, is he a great wizard, or is he more like you? These were the three wizards we have met in some form or another in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, whether it be in the movies or books. But there were two more, the Blue Wizards. Those who went east to enemy-occupied lands and were lost, no one knowing what happened to them. Even Gandalf forgot their names, but we haven't. We won't. And it's time to tell their stories. Alatar the Blue, lost at sea. Alatar is one of the 2 wizards who were not only the first to volunteer to go to Middle-earth after the Rings of Power were forged, but also one of the 2, along with his friend Palando, to go to the lands in the east and the south where they were to start rebellions among those who worship Sauron and aid those who didn't. Yes, the Blue Wizards had the toughest task, and of course, since they went missing to an extent where no name was given to them in Middle-earth, we can assume they failed. Tolkien himself said so, adding that they failed in a manner different from Sauron's fall. Popular theories state that Alatar, or Morinatar as Tolkien later revealed his name to be, became the founder of a secret magical cult. But who was he before going MIA in Middle-earth? A disciple of the hunter Orome, and according to Professor Tolkien, Alatar must have been influential in curbing the rise of Sauron in the Second and Third Age, for otherwise, the forces of the men of the East would outnumber those in the West. Yes, they failed to inform the others about where Sauron was hiding, and yes, the professor hinted that they failed in the Third Age, but he also said that they likely left behind magical traditions that outlasted Sauron well into the Age of Men. But who was alongside Alatar as he accomplished all these feats? His chosen friend, the Pippin to his Merry, the Sam to his Frodo, the Killy to his Filly, Palando. Palando the Blue, lost at sea. Named East-helped or Romasthromo by Tolkien, Palando was taken by Alatar with him and Saruman to the east to aid those fighting Sauron and subdue those worshipping him. Alatar had taken his fellow disciple or the hunter with him as a friend, both wizards clad in robes of sea blue with staffs to channel their magic. While they looked old, they weren't nearly as aged looking as the Grey One. While not much is known about the work of the Blue Wizards, and many assume they failed in their task and instead set up magical cults, the name East Helper shows that they did meaningful work alongside the people they were sent to mobilize against Sauron. Perhaps the unfinished tales will someday tell us more about the Blue Wizards. After all, most of what we know about them comes from there, such as Alatar being called Darkness Slayer. While Tolkien says only Gandalf remained faithful to the mission of protecting Middle-earth against Sauron, what with Saruman falling and Radagast turning to nature, he also acknowledges that the Blue Wizards, despite their failure and lack of return to the West, succeeded in stopping and repairing the corruption done by the Dark Lords in the East to a large extent, which is why they eventually managed to reduce the number of allies Sauron would get from the Easterlings. Unfortunately, that's all we've got for you guys on the Maiar, but what do you guys think? Did you learn something new about the Tolkienian mythos? Let us know your thoughts and your reviews in the comments down below while we present to you.
And Gandalf the Grey rides to Isengard, seeking my counsel.
A marvelous verdict! These wizards in Lord of the Rings, especially Gandalf, had a lasting impression on literature, giving wings to the genre of wizened old men as mentors. Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original trilogy, Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series, and many others owe the Maiar for their generic roots. Yet we've also seen that these Maiar are flawed, and they can easily be corrupted or distracted, showing us the true strength of Gandalf that wasn't in his magic or his sword, but his commitment to his task, which in turn shows us the Professor's skill at storytelling. Perhaps we'll see more of the history of the Istari in the Rings of Power. Until then, it's adventure time. We're picking the Blue Wizards, but who are you going with? That's all the content we've got for you today, but don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.